So we'll have a short talk about meditation within the Buddhist tradition first. And within the Buddhist tradition, there are two categories of meditation. And they are different from each other. They are combined, but nevertheless they are different. The first one is called, in Sanskrit, samatha, in Tibetan, sine. And samatha, the sama is very close etymologically to the English word same, sama, same. The mind remains the same. And tha is a shortening for stha, which again is closer to the English word stay. The mind stays the same. And this is basically when the mind is focused on something, like the breathing up here, or the breathing down here, or some object outside, like the statue of a Buddha, or classically there are many kinds of objects for focus, like a yellow disc, a blue disc, a red disc, a white disc, a light, and then the breathing itself, the sensation of the breathing itself. These are classically used in Buddhism to focus the mind, to reach a very high degree of razor-sharp focus. And this is a whole science by itself, where you can arrive at deeper and deeper and deeper levels of mind absorption. And they are called samadhis in Sanskrit. Samadhis means, the closest English word is trance states. And then there are many levels of samadhi. The first samadhi, second samadhi, third samadhi, fourth samadhi, where even the breathing stops at the fourth. And the person who's in the fourth samadhi, the breathing completely stops, and he can stay in that state for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours. And usually it is tested, because in ancient time there were no equipments to test these kind of things. A feather is put in front of his nose, and if the feather doesn't flicker, the breathing has stopped. And so this kind of samadhi practices, meditations, are basically to train the mind to be able to focus on one particular thing for a long time. I mean, all of you know, we humans, our mind is kind of wild, running around into the past, into the future, and hardly ever in the present, right? And so we need to train the mind to bring it there. And this kind of meditation is found not only in Buddhism, but in all religious systems. The Hindus have many systems of what we call samatha, the focusing of the mind and getting into samadhi. In the same way, the Muslim Sufis have their own systems, and the Christians have their own systems. And basically, where the mind is absorbed in any object, whether internal or external. And it could be the sound within, called nada, the internal sound. When you listen to it, you can hear the kind of humming sound inside. And when you keep your mind focused on it, or train your mind to focus, in the beginning, it's not going to be focused, it's going to move out. But you bring it back, bring it back, bring it back, bring it back, until it stays longer and longer and longer period in the same sound. The sound changes, and there's like the humming of the bees and the thundering sound and those kind of things. Or other things, like for example, light in here, or light outside there. These are all samatha. And this kind of meditation brings tranquility to the mind. The mind becomes relaxed and slows down, and if the person feels very peaceful, If a person has meditated many years in this kind of practice, if you sit next to him or meet him, you can feel that aura, that silence, that tranquility. And it doesn't matter whether he's a Hindu or a Buddhist or a Sufi or a Christian. The same effect takes place. And this is basically, this kind of meditation is called samatha. And there are many kinds of samatha within Buddhism itself. And for example, mantras, taking the mantra and repeating the mantra over and over again, and the mind gets absorbed. But not all methods reach to the fourth level of samadhi where the breathing stops. There are only certain types of samadhi, types of objects that can be taken for this kind of practice. Then the second category of meditation in Buddhism, which is unique to Buddhism, is what is called vipassana. In the Pali language used in Sri Lanka, Thailand, Burma, is called vipassana. In Sanskrit, it's called vipashyana, Shyana, vipassana. And in Tibetan, it's called lathong, and Chinese, it's called quan. I forgot, in Chinese, samatha is called chi. So chi, quan, the two. And the vipassana, again, going back to the Sanskrit word, vi comes from two words, which is shortening of visheshena, vividena. Visheshena means special, and vividena means holistic. And pashyana, pashyana is seeing, seeing. And this is a special type of meditation where the objective is not merely to reach trance states, but to penetrate through and see how the world really exists, how I really exists. And that is called vipassana. And again, it is a totally different type of meditation. As I said, the objective is not just to quieten the mind, although even in this vipassana, the mind does get quieted to some extent. The objective is to see. Pashyana is see. To see directly, non-conceptually, how the world, the mode of existence of the world, the way the world exists. And the world includes me, so the way I exist. And this is unique to Buddhism. You don't find this in other systems, in Hinduism or Sufism or Christianity and so on. And among these two, we will be doing one kind of samatha, and that is related to compassion. In the title, I think you've been told that you will be doing metta bhavana. Metta is a Pali word for Maitri in Sanskrit, but we will be doing more Mahayana-oriented meditation related to metta bhavana, and that's basically related to compassion. So, before we meditate, I'm sure some of you have already meditated, but it's traditional to go through the basics first before you go into it. So, in Buddhism, whether it's Zen Buddhism or Tibetan Buddhism, it is, especially in the Mahayana tradition, it is considered extremely important to sit properly. Marpa, the guru of Milarepa, and I don't know if you've heard of Milarepa, but he's quite famous actually, and said that even if everything in Buddhism is lost, but if this sitting posture remains, Buddhism can still be saved. And in the Zen tradition, which I studied for 9 or 10 years, also sitting properly is considered as extremely important. And so to meditate, you have to sit properly. To sit properly, and of course, if many Westerners can't sit down. You don't have to sit down. You can sit in a chair as well. The main important point is that your backbone is straight. backbone is straight. But sitting in a chair, sitting on a chair with the backbone straight for a long time of period is difficult, because the back muscles here that keeps the backbone straight, it gets slowly strained, and then it start collapsing. And these postures in the Indian subcontinent, which spread to China, Japan, Korea, and other places also, and the style that she stayed, the Japanese style, Japanese style, were developed through centuries. And if you may have a cushion behind your seat, so that your seat is raised, and then your two knees are touching the ground rather than like this, If you are sitting like this, like most, not only Westerners, even Indians, Nepalis, when they sit, sometimes sit like this, then there is pressure here. So if your knees, this is a gift that Donald gave me, my knees. If your knees are touching the ground, and then you have a cushion behind you, raising your seat, then it's like a tripod. Then you move your lower belly out, which means the backside is curved like this automatically. Then you can forget your posture, it's straight. Right? But you need to experiment, because depending on the structure of your bone and how tall you are, how short you are, you may need higher cushion, lower cushion. You need to experiment with that. So once you get the right thing, then if you put the lower belly out, then you can just loose, and you still remain straight. I think you're long, so you need a higher cushion.
Too high.
They're very too high.
You can have this one. This is
Yeah.
I can have that one.
If you do that, if you pull the top one ahead, outside, there, then you pull the top one. I can't move around too well with his knees.
Okay?
Yeah. Now try it.
Or you carry this. A little bit high.
Yeah. Now bring your lower belly back, a forward angle. Yeah. Then it's straight. You can be loose and relaxed and still straight, right?
So relax.
Yeah. Okay. Then the hands. In the Buddhist style, is either you put it down like this, or the most common is like this, like this. So that again, two styles here, like this. So here, or like this. And the Hindu style, you do it like this, like this. But that is not the Buddhist style. The Buddhist style is you put it like this, or like this. And this is the most common. And then you bend your head slightly, the chin goes inward slightly, not too much, not like this, slightly, so that you're looking down. Then you keep your eyes open, but look down. In the Theravada tradition, the Pali tradition, you keep the eyes closed. In the Mahayana tradition, you keep the eyes open, but half closed, looking down forward. Then, once you have this posture, and then shoulders loose, shoulders loose, jaws not tight, loose. Usually people, you say focus, concentrate on tight jaws and so on. So loose and relaxed. And then you need to experiment. Like you see, like if without realizing, if you're a beginner, if you're bent towards the right, then desires, attachment, passion, these kind of things can arise. Because the wings move in the right channel. If you are towards the left, then the wind moves towards the right channel. And So aggressiveness and anger, hatred, these kind of emotions can arise subtly from the subconscious mind. Right? Then, so you kind of move until, like the Japanese doll, that the Chinese doll that comes to the center. Then forward and backward. If you are too forward, then with 5 minutes you'll be falling asleep. So when we fall asleep, when you feel drowsy, the body automatically goes like this. So if you're already moving forward, you're helping it. And if you're moving slightly this side, then pride begins. Proud people move around like this. So pride begins to arise in you. So you need to balance that. But if you're meditating years and years in the slightly bent some different way, then you'll be surprised. I'm meditating so many years, but I feel so proud and my ego is so big. So all these have to be balanced properly. Then once you're straight, and then looking down with the chin slightly tucked in, not too much, slightly tucked in, and shoulders loose, and jaws loose. Now, we visualize from your heart white light rays, which are the accumulation of all your merit, all your goodness, all your compassion, all your love and so on, move up, come up, and through the nose and spread to the whole universe. And then all the evil, all the bad karma, bad whatever, come in the form of black rays and enter into you and enter into your heart and is converted into white rays. So like that, while you breathe in, out, you add this visualization. White rays go out, white rays symbolize all the good things, all your happiness, your compassion, your goodness, and all the merit you have accumulated. And it goes out and pacifies the whole universe. It gives it to them and purifies them. And black rays come, all those are all their evil deeds, passion, anger, hatred, whatever, comes in and goes into your heart, and in your heart the crucible, the alchemical process takes place, and it's converted into white light. And then the white light goes out again. So like this, keep the mind focused, looking down, and allow, and try not to move anymore once we start. Okay, it may be difficult for some of you, but okay. So let's do it. Let's start. If your mind wanders off, that's perfectly fine. Just come back to the exercise. Come back to the meditation. is past, you can slowly come out of your meditation. As part of training your mind and body to meditate, a very important aspect is once, I know it's difficult for some of you, but to still the body until the time is past. No matter how strong you get the impulse to move and whatever, you just still it. Train it to be still, because the body and mind are interdependent. And when you still the body, the mind also gets stilled. So, in meditation, it's very important, like if it's 10 minutes or 20 minutes or half an hour, not to move at all, not even the slightest. And many of you were moving around like this, making this movement, which is natural at this stage. But you need to understand that you have to still your body to still the mind. And so you have to train it like an untrained horse. You have to whip it, whip it, and force it to stay that way, even if it's a little bit painful. And like, just one minute, like when you are sitting, especially, not just for you, even for us, when we start, the muscles are being pressed, so the blood vessels are stopped, So it's going to get painful, It's going to get numb, painful. Now, if you keep moving, you're never going to get used to it. And don't worry, your leg won't fall off. Because the body is a self-healing system. It creates new capillaries around, for the blood to go. So you have to allow it time to create new capillaries. If you keep on moving, then it will never create new capillaries. And every time you sit, you'll have the same problem. So that's why you have to gradually train yourself to just, like training a horse, you have to whip it and so on. You have to whip your body to just stay put, no matter how painful it is getting down here. Then gradually you'll get over it. And this is not just for Western people, it's for Eastern people too. It's the same thing. The same thing happens. Yeah, any questions?
What about those little movements around spine? Because when we, for example, tend off to drift maybe into sleep or close to, sometimes a deep breath in helps to rise again and to stretch the spine, but it's somehow a movement. It's just a movement inside.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you say
breathing, you see, the breathing changes as you go deeper. Then it becomes slower and gentler. It's in the breathing when you have difficulty in adjusting the breathing. Because sometimes you have to breathe, sometimes you feel like there's not enough breath coming in or going out. These are in the beginning only. But if you keep on at it, there will come a time when you'll forget the breathing. And the red white light of happiness and so on, and sorrow and suffering and so on, black coming in and back, the mind will be focused only on that.
So you then also don't adjust your back anymore? It just stays straight.
Yeah, once you sit properly, then you don't have to keep adjusting it. You have to adjust it if you're not sitting properly from the beginning. Yes.
What about lying down? Can you lie down?
Yeah, you can lie down if you're sick or so on, And you see, there's a posture called the lion posture, which is lying down on the right side, like the way the Buddha passed away. And you can meditate in that posture also. But because the body has the memories of falling asleep when you lie down, it's easier to fall asleep when lying down.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the memory of the body. Because usually when you fall asleep, you lie down. So there's memory. Of course, in the Buddhist tradition, in the Chinese tradition, there are schools where once you join the school, you're trained to fall asleep like this. You take a vow that you'll never lie down all your life. So then, in the beginning, it's very difficult, but ultimately the body is trained that you can fall asleep like this. So if you're sick, then of course you can meditate lying down. Then it's important to lie down on the right side. Because this has to do with the channels, meridians. To lie down on the right side, the mind becomes quieter. If you're lying down the left side, the mind tends to move a lot. Yes.
And which are the difference between the difference in your body and in your mind between the guided meditations and the ones in
Can you
silence?
speak a little louder, please?
Sorry.
I'm an old man.
As a beginner, I ask, what is the difference between the guided meditations and the silence meditations? Because for me it's much more easier to do a guided meditation, to be hearing someone.
Yeah, guided meditation is like you're guided step by step, various steps, right? But that's for beginners, total beginners. Once you know what to do, right, then you don't need the guiding anymore, right? Then you can just go into meditation. And also, in guided meditation, you cannot go, you see, like this goes into a technical part. I did talk about deep states of absorption called samadhis, right? And you have to understand that meditation is not just watching the breath and calming down a little bit and relaxing and being present in the here and now. Oh, that's a part of meditation, an aspect of meditation. There are many, many, many things related to meditation. Like, for example, stages of going into deeper and deeper levels of, the best English word I can get is trance. Right? Deeper and deeper level of trance. And in the Mahayan tradition, there are what are called the 9 mind states. Like the first state is like right now here, we're talking with this song. Then I try to calm down and quieten. Then if I reach a certain level of absorption, that's called the first mind state. Then this deeper second mind state, deeper third mind state, then until the 9th mind state. And till the 8th mind state, we have to make an effort to bring the mind back, whatever type of meditation you're doing, right? And from the 8th onwards, it's like riding a free bus ride. Once you sit and meditate, the mind will just flow by itself. And then the 9th. Then from the 9th onwards, the wings in the body started moving. And there's extreme bliss arising. And it reaches a kind of peak and then comes down. And that's when it comes down, there's like absolute tranquility. And that is called the first dhyana. That's the first samadhi. And then there's a higher level called the second dhyana. There's a higher level called the third dhyana. There's a higher level, the fourth dhyana, which I just said, where even the breathing stops. There are many levels. Guided meditation can take you only to maybe third or fourth mind state, not beyond. If you really want to go in depth, then you need to do your own practice without anything coming from outside. But guided meditation is very important for beginners and very useful. But it cannot take you beyond a certain level. Certain level of absorption. The problem is like, there's no English word for it. That's the problem. In India, in Nepal, in Tibet, in Japan, in China, we have technical words for these things. They're like science. It's a science by itself. We have deep, profound technical words for it to signify each state and so on. Now, in English, in French, in German, there are no such words, because it has not been developed. So when you go deeper and deeper and deeper into what you could call relaxation, let's say, your mind gets very relaxed and peaceful, nice, but just that peaceful niceness has many degrees. And you go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until even the breathing stops. So these kind of things cannot happen just on guided meditation. You have to learn how to meditate yourself. Once you learn it through the guidance, then you have to do it yourself without external sounds or inputs coming in. Like nowadays in present day science, there is what is called binaural beats. They put ear and then the two different sound levels of hertz sounds, and that creates alpha waves, beta waves, theta waves, and so on. And when these things create alpha waves, that's a relaxed state. But if you go really deep, then theta waves arrive. Theta wave also comes when you're dreaming. But here you are not dreaming. You are in a certain state of mind. So it's different from just dreaming. And theta waves will be coming. To arrive at that kind of theta wave and also delta wave, then you need to go really deep. Then guided meditation cannot take you there. Binaural beats cannot take you there. They can make you relax, alpha waves emit out of your brain, and so on. So it's a very complex field. It's a whole science by itself.
But then in that stage, you are not like training your body and your mind like a horse. It's the mind that is training you. You have to leave it.
Yes, once you arrive at a state, it's like a trained horse. Once you train the horse fully, then you don't need to whip it. It just goes. If you just slightly move, it'll move by itself. So it's like that.
I have a question. You were talking about black lights and white lights, and you were like describing them. I want to ask if you have any specific visualization of this kind of black light and white light. Can you describe it? Do you see anything? Do you actually visualize it?
Okay, now I understand what you mean. See, some people are more visual, so they actually see white light rays going out and black rays coming in, right? Some people are not visual, so they find it very difficult to see white light and black. But you see, you have the same effect if you just imagine that this is what is happening. That white light, even though you don't see white light actually going out, you think that the white light is going out and black light is coming in. Then the same effect will take place.
But in your case, do you visualize anything? Or
yes, I do.
And what do you
see? But it doesn't mean, the ability to visualize does not mean you are advanced. It's just the way you are built. Some are how do you call it? Auditory, or some are visual, some are kinesthetic, and so if some people are not visual, that whenever they are told to visualize, they can't visualize. But even scientific research has shown that if you visualize, the right brain comes into action, and the right brain is related to intuition, insight, metaphoric things, poems, music, these kind of things. So. But then your question is like, I can't visualize, right? So, for example, if I can't visualize, it doesn't matter. You just imagine this is happening. Imagine the white light is going out and the black light is coming in.
Another doubt I have is the open or closed eyes, because when we talk about the visual sense, which is the strongest for human beings, I find it more distracting and more difficult to get deeper than if I have my eyes closed.
Yeah, that's true.
Is it only because we fall asleep?
That's true for beginners, because mostly when people think of meditation, then it's closed eyes, right? Well, this has its own disadvantage and its advantage. It seems easier for the beginner to focus on whatever you want to focus, but when you close your eyes, drowsiness comes in quicker. When you open your eyes, keep your eyes open down, then, as you said, there seems to be a lot of distraction in the beginning. But if you persist, if you keep on practicing, there will come a time when you stop seeing what's in front of you. You know? And the visualization will, or whatever you have to do, will happen. So, that's why in the Mahayan tradition, we keep the eyes open, because the eye is the door to knowledge. You know, probably 75% of what we know is through the eyes. You know? And so, in the Mahayan tradition, all Mahayan traditions, Zen, Chan, Chinese Chan, and the Tibetan system, it is said you should keep your eyes open, not close it.
And not moving, eyes should be just focusing one way.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask if the eyes should be just focusing on one
Yeah,
object, or
no,
is
not
it okay if
not,
it gets moving? Is
not
that
an object.
no?
I mean, like 2 or 3 feet ahead of you, depending on how tall you are, right? When you look down like this, whatever distance that is, 5 feet, 2 feet, 3 feet, keep your eyes there, then forget it. You know? Now the rest is because thoughts are going in your mind. You know, when thoughts go in your mind, then your eyes will move. You know? So as you practice and less and less thoughts appear in the mind, the eye will remain more and more fixed in one place.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry. You're just talking about the different mind states and levels that you can get into by meditating. I was wondering, how do you know what mind state you're in? How do you know that what you're doing? How do you know it's working, basically?
Okay. There's a, you see, like when you are meditating and practicing, then you get a manual, and the manual has all the details. Like, for example, I'll give you an example, right? I mean, not exactly as this, the manual, an example. For example, when you're starting to focus on some, like let's say this cap, right? Then I try to visualize the cap, keep the cap in front of me, right? And how many minutes passes by before I've lost the cap? That is the gauge on where your mind, first mind state, second mind state, or third mind state, and so on. 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you know. Then you never lose the cap. Once you're like in the fourth state, then you don't lose the cap, even though thoughts come. In the beginning, a thought comes, you completely lose the cap. You know? And through training, thoughts come, but the cap is not lost. But then you count how many thoughts, 2 thoughts, 3 thoughts in a minute. You know? And so this extends. In the 2 thoughts arrive only in 5 minutes. 2 thoughts arrive only in 10 minutes. You know? And so on. And by the time you are in the 8th mind state, then there are no thoughts coming. You know? And even if they come, they're very far away. Like for you, like when you're up in a plane and you see clouds way down there, you know, like that kind of far distant thing, even if thoughts do arise. So this is how they're gauged.
And instead of just being the cap, it can be just like the breath that you're focusing on, or anything else, right?
Instead of what?
Instead of just looking at the cap, like
Yeah,
visualizing it's a
yeah.
breath. Or,
Cap is an example.
Okay, one last
And
question.
also just one minute, yeah. Also, like you see, like these are very detailed things. So, but one interesting suddenly came in mind. So, when you reach the 9th stage, then whether it's the breathing, you know, your mind is focused on the breathing, right? Or let's say the cap. The cap comes more inside and changes. The breathing, there's a different thing happening. Instead of just the sensation happening, a different thing begins to happen. If it's a colored disc that you're meditating on, the disc comes in, like as if your mind and the disc has become one, and the quality of the disc changes. So these things happen.
I would like to ask a question. You mentioned at a certain level, mind levels, the breathing stops, and then what happens? How do you survive, or you just die?
No, you don't. Nobody would rate it if you died. But that's a good question. What happens, I think, is in modern scientific language, oxygen comes in osmotically through the pores. So actual breathing is not necessary. So, and the person can remain for 12 hours, 13 hours, 24 hours in that state. And it is not really deprived of oxygen because probably the entire metabolic system slows down to such a great extent that very little oxygen is used. When you are in samadhi, the question, what you said, just asked, the body and mind takes care of itself. If, like for example, I'm in deep samadhi here and there's an earthquake, I will wake up automatically. Whereas even if somebody clapped a big, what's that called, cymbal or something in your ears, you will not get up. But if there's a real-time earthquake, the body will wake up. So there's a self-protective system, automatic system in our system.
Okay, thank you. I think it's time for a little break.
Okay.